everybody. Hey, LaKeith.
Look at all these beautiful people.
Here to hear you talk.
Yeah, all right.
First can with a film. How are we feeling?
It's nice. Look at this. This is beautiful. It's very nice. I'm a bit jet lagged. I came from LA, so I'm still figuring out my right from my left, but it's a very beautiful festival. I love all the energy, and it really feels good to be here. I'm happy. It's my first time really here with the film. It feels great to be here. It's awesome. It's an honor, really. I mean, I come from California, a little small town, and now I'm here. I'm in France, and I never forget that journey. So
I think it's overdue, frankly.
yeah.
So you're here with the film Die My Love, which premiered last night. Really amazing film for anyone who saw it. And you got to do the whole, thing at the Palais. You got the standing ovation. You walked the red carpet. What was the whole experience like?
The standing ovation's fun because you don't know whether to keep going or stop, and it just it gets awkward at some point, but then you just look around and people are still doing it, so you just do it. And then you realize it's something very positive the longer it is. So you just, my muscles were getting fatigued, but I said, we got to keep going. I was in it to win it. And I said, I'm not going to stop. But it was just really beautiful. The appreciation for art, for film, for the dedication and hard work it takes to do this is really beautiful to receive in that way. And it was a beautiful experience to share.
Yeah. I was really struck by something you said today at the press conference, kind of about what drew you to the project. You talked about when you first read the script, it connected you to this sense of life and creation in a way you hadn't felt in a long time. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the script along those lines, why it hit you so hard.
It's not often you read a script that you can't really put down, and it grips you and brings you into this experience that is foreign to you. And it's just beautifully written. It's almost like Shakespeare, the way the words bring you into a experience, and it's a series of visceral feelings and reactions. When I'm reading it, it feels like for the first time I get some sense of what it must be like to view the world through the lens of a woman. And in that, I can see the beautiful strength in creation and the multiplicity of complexity that it is to be a woman. That, for me as a surveyor, as a man, it's a new experience. And I wrote and I read it, and I was just like, wow, it was just like this ride of beautiful colors, and I just couldn't wait to help bring it to the screen because it felt special just even reading it. And that's not often you get that. So I got that, and I was really excited. And I just said, how can I help?
Yeah. So you play a supporting part, and you share scenes with Jennifer Lawrence, and they're very intense and very ambiguous, I think it's safe to say. What can you say about working with her and what you guys were trying to achieve in your scenes together?
I knew that she was doing something special from the onset. It was interesting because the character she was playing was so necessarily aloof that when I'm acting with her in the scene, I'm almost like, who is there and who's at home? It's difficult to ascertain, but I think I knew she was doing something special, and that's always awesome when you're with an actor and you're like, wow, you're doing something unique here. And then you have moments where you get caught in each other's gaze, and then everything else outside of you disappears, and now you're in a real moment. And then they say cut, and then you're like, what the hell just happened? Yeah. And there were some beautiful, magical moments like that, and I was like, I'm with a real actress, and it was dope.
And how was Lynn as a director?
Oh, she's amazing. First of all, she speaks at 1,000,000 miles per hour, and it's difficult to understand what she's saying, but I think that's part of the fun. It's figuring out. It's like, and I'm just like, wait, what? And she has this really naturalistic, style and this approach, and she sort of really just parts the sea and gives you the stage and lets you, operate in there, and it comes in and, points it in the right direction. So it's an actor's dream, really. I felt like I had a canvas, so it was quite a treat.
I'm going to make a bit of a leap here, but stay with me because the way you come into this movie reminded me a little bit of Get Out, in that in both films you play a supporting part, and the first time we see your face, it kind of reshapes our understanding of the movie, reality, all the things of within the world of the film. I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit, being a supporting actor in a movie like this, and knowing you kind of have to make an impact with the first time we see your face.
I think sometimes with movies like this, my job is to ground it. It's something that it operates in this sort of limbo state between reality and dream-like experience, and I'm supposed to come in and make it feel real. And I think that I have sometimes this ability to make non-believable things believable. So I just live in the world as if it's a real world. I mean, to me, this world is crazy. So living in that, it's kind of the same thing I have to do with the characters. It's just like, accept. and yeah, just take it in as it is, as experiences, as crazy as it is. Sometimes you just got to release and let it go. And I feel the same thing within the confines of this story. There's a lot of chaos going around, and you just release yourself to it, and then there's a sense of freedom.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to play these parts that have been pivotal in their limited use. And I think that that's a unique opportunity for an actor to be able to operate in a limited space, or at least where it appears limited. There's actually quite a profound impact you can have, even with a small amount of time, and sometimes more than you might think in those smaller roles.
Absolutely. What do you think it is about you that can ground unreality? Why do you think you've been used that way over the years?
Silence. Out of silence comes action, you know. Acting is reacting. It's a little game of cat and mouse all the time, you know. I think sometimes as actors we're ready to just, like, be doing something. But I think, like, you know, sometimes it's just as simple as just being there.
Yeah.
And I think I can do that pretty well, you know.
Yeah. Talking about the impact that this script had on you, I'm wondering in your career if there were others that the second you got it, it altered the way you saw the world in some way, the way this one obviously brought you into a woman's perspective in a new way. If there's a script that comes to mind along those lines.
Oh, man. I got to say, Get Out. I mean, I was a white man inside of my own body.
For starters.
And I realized how much of that is just manufactured. Can I cuss?
I think so.
Bullshit.
Oh, that's fine.
You know, races, all this shit. It's bullshit. And it's a program that's designed to have us live in these paradigms that we agree are this, you know, the structure of who we are. And switching bodies, per se, made me realize that very quickly. And I think that was a really cool, transformative experience, like literally being there and seeing the world from the lens of someone else, which is just another human.
Yeah.
And it was no more plainly understood to me than standing in that weird, strange backyard in the South, that it's all really the same thing, and we fight over the silliest things. So that was a beautiful experience, and it had me thinking about it for years to come. I still think about it sometimes. And what was crazier than that is I screened the movie with Snoop Dogg at some point later on after that, and he was smoking weed. I don't smoke, so he tried to pass me the blunt on stage, and I refused it, which is, you can't do that. I didn't know that, though. And I said no, and everybody later was giving me shit. They're like, you're supposed to smoke when Snoop gives you the blunt, man. I'm like, oh, I didn't know. But as a result of the theater that he rented out, which everyone was smoking in, I got secondhand smoke. Because I don't smoke, there was this foreign experience of being high that was happening while I was watching the movie. Needless to say, Get Out is a whole different movie when you're high. And I had an existential crisis that night.
You also played Snoop Dogg in Straight Outta Compton.
I did, yeah.
That was before Get Out.
Yes, it was.
So that must have been made it especially interesting.
Oh, I got a story about that too. So
please give.
I thought in order to play Snoop, you had to be high.
I would think the same thing, probably.
Yeah. I don't smoke, so I thought, all right, I got to get in the headspace of Snoop. I actually got the job one night before I had to show up on set at 5 a.m. They called me and they said, you got the job, you got to be on set at 8. Wow. I said, what the hell? So I had to do a crash course in Snoop and just like figuring out everything. I said, I know what I'll do. I'll smoke. It was not smart. I couldn't find my mark. I didn't know whether I was going left or right. And to make it matters worse, Snoop is a pretty tall dude. And I thought I was tall until I had to play him. And they put me in these platform Chuck Taylors. Oh, wow. So now I'm walking on my tippy toes, and I'm understanding what women must go through in high heels on a daily basis. So now I'm playing Snoop, but I'm lifted off of the ground, and I'm high, and I'm missing my mark. And it was terrible. But after I came down, it was better. And I got my bearings. And I was like, I will never do that again.
So the pattern emerging here is you're only high if Snoop Dogg is involved.
And then I met him on the red carpet. And, well, first I met a wave of smoke. Because he doesn't care where he's at. And I'm like moving through the smoke, and I find him. And I'm like, hey, man, you know, it was nice to play you. It was cool. And thank you so much for trusting me. And he was like, yeah, nephew. I appreciate you. He was like, good job, nephew. It's beautiful.
Love that.
Yeah,
coming
shouts
out
out Snoop.
Yeah. So Die My Level, it's currently seeking distribution. It'll obviously come out soon at some point. You have a lot of films that you've shot in the last year or two that are soon to come out. I'm just curious, like, what the last few years have been like for you. It seems like you've been pretty busy.
Yeah. I love acting. And, Any chance I get to, play, I love to do it, and I like to stay busy. But as of late here, I've been balancing more like personal life with work and spending some more time with myself because you can get lost in the shuffle and lose yourself in it and forget to check in. So I've been taking some time to check in, and I found love, and my wife right here has been helping balance me out. And that's been beautiful. Personal growth is just as important as anything. I've been indulging in that a bit, really just trying to find things that speak to me, really, and moving in that, and reading a lot, and traveling, and spending time with my kids, having a good rapport with them, and learning and growing and being sharpened from my family. So, that's been the major thing that's been a benefit to me the last couple of years. It's just like personal growth, working on self, doing better.
And you work on music too, right?
Brings me to my first album, which will be dropping this summer. Yeah, thank you. It's called Do Better. And it talks, and it chronicles my journey of learning to love myself more, and taking strides to grow and trying to grow my artistry, and the frustration with when you hit that brick wall creatively. Sometimes you just gotta back up and take a breath and remember who you are. And to that end, seeing this thing that was like Route 66, California, as I'm walking up here, I'm like, damn, I couldn't imagine I would have ever been in France. From California. I'm sure you guys sort of feel the same way. You get all the way here and you're like, damn, I must be doing something right,
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing to look back upon your journey and look at all the steps you've been taking and be able to appreciate it.
First album's a pretty big milestone. Is it something you'd been wanting to do for a while?
Yeah, I've been making music since before I started acting. The acting just took off first, but I always wrote poetry. I always loved writing, loved reading. So I was writing poetry and music, and I started playing around with all different genres. I really fell in love with Nirvana when I was younger, and Tupac, and I think my music is sort of a mixture of all those different genres, and I just do whatever I feel like doing, and luckily someone liked it and I got signed, and then I was able to continue to make music. So now I'm finally proud. When I do movies, I always write. I'm writing. I'll be inspired by set, inspired by my travels, inspired by my relationships, and I'll always be writing. And then I finally got a chance to put it all down and record it. And so now I'm going to come out with it, and hopefully people enjoy it.
Awesome. All right. Do Better this summer.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Let's go back, LaKeith, to when you did first start acting. I think your first screen credit was the short-term 12 short film. Do I have that right?
You do, yeah.
Okay. So you were still a teenager when you were cast in that.
Yeah.
Were you kind of working toward that as a teenager? How did that come to you?
Yeah, I was in drama class. I was a drama nerd. I love drama, and all the little quirky, weird kids were my friends, and I loved them. And, we kind of weren't a part of the mainstream, and but I think we had a tacit understanding that we were cool in our own way, I certainly felt so. I loved being in drama class because it gave me the opportunity to just be stupid, and I like to do that and be free and unhinged and get into these characters, and it was a license to just be creative, and that class I liked the most out of all classes. And I remember I was trying to get into acting somehow, so I just started filling things out on the internet. It was in the very early stages of the internet where it was still quite slow, and there were very little results when you typed in Google actory shit, which is what I think I typed in. And then I just filled out all of these different things, and I, ran on some scams and ran into a bunch of shit. And then one thing was the School of Modeling and Runway, which every other week they brought in a talent agent that scouted the models. So I said, all right, I guess I'm a model. Whatever I got to do to get in. So I got in, I started walking on the runway, and they brought this agent through, and they said, you have to have 16 lines of prepared material. Are you ready? I said, yes. I wasn't, but I did it anyway. And I forgot what I did, but I think I blacked out, and I came to, and I was standing on top of the chair, and I was dry. I was and the guy was like, very well. And so I surely thought I messed it up, walked out of there, and I got signed to Abrams Artist Agency, which was a commercial agency, and that was the first time I had been signed. And so then I started auditioning and failing. But in between that, I did a little short film called Short Term 12. That was the very first thing I ever shot. I remember walking on set. I was super nervous, but I was happy to be doing what I loved. And as soon as they said action, all the nervousness went away. and something came over me, and I was like, I'm supposed to be here. And I did that, and it won a grand jury prize in Sundance. And then 5 years later, I'm working AT&T. I quit. I didn't quit, but there's nothing I could do. I had to go to work, so I went back to. I was working at AT&T. You get nothing. You audition and you just hit the wall, and you keep hitting the wall. Now I'm working at AT&T, and then I get fired from that job. The day I get fired, it was swivel chair, just like the movies, just like, we have to let you go. I'm sorry. And the moment that happens, I go back home. I log into my old account that had been dry for months since I've been working there. Right. I look at the comments, and it's Destin, the guy who made Short Term 12, the original. It's like, we're making the feature. We want you to come audition for it. So that day I get fired. I'm in Sacramento. I fly all the way to L.A., go to his living room, audition for Short Term 12. I look up. He has tears in his eyes, and he says, you got the role. And, I kind of play it cool. I'm like, well, thank you. And as soon as I walk outside of his apartment, I'm like, yes! What? And I booked that role, and as a result, I got nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and that's where my career kind of started. Yeah, ever since then, I just kind of been hitting the ground running. So you never know, never give up, never stop, and wherever you can create an opportunity, create one.
It's a great story. You really are amazing in that movie. Destin, the director you mentioned, is now, of course, a big-time director. He does Marvel movies. The cast is wild. The film premiered. It was a very small, critical darling. People did not know who Brie Larson was yet. They did not know who LaKeith Stanfield was yet. They didn't know who Rami Malek was yet.
Yeah.
They're all in that movie. Did you have a sense at the time that just working with these actors who are obviously unbelievably talented, you've all been Oscar nominated since then, but you're all kind of just starting out there. What was that like?
I think you don't really have much of a context. I think for me, I just knew that I loved it and I was hungry and I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. And that's all I knew. I remember the first time, I was so uncultured, the first time we went to a restaurant as a cast, I had never been to a restaurant proper. And this is when I was good and grown, so like 20. We go to a restaurant and the guy offers us some wine. And he shows us the thing. I've never been shown wine before. So he showed me the wine. I grabbed it, and I just started drinking it. And everybody was like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, I thought he was giving us the bottle. What do you mean? And I would learn through time, like there was this whole etiquette, and there's this whole thing. There's this whole other world. There's so much to see. And I got to get on a plane and travel places and, open my world up completely, this business, and being able to be a performer. So, I've just learned so much, immensely, so much. And nothing, I learned the most from reading scripts. That's where I got most of my understanding from. It's like there's so many different lifestyles and so many different experiences. But it all ended up to me feeling like the same thing. It's all the same. It's just different clothes.
So a few years after that, you book Atlanta, the great television series. I read the way you described the way you'd get into character for Darius. I think you described it as something like zoning out. I wonder if you could talk about your process a little bit on that show.
Yeah, zoning out. Darius was great because he's a character that I was able to just be free. Yeah. And Donald, he cast me for that because I was at a party. So what they do is they invite you to these Hollywood parties where you just basically come to network. And I was young and I was dancing around with myself. Because I like to have fun with myself. So I'm my own dance partner. I'm dancing over here and then I go to the other side and dance with myself. And he sees this happening and he's like, "You're Darius." So I didn't realize it. So he calls me to the side and I kind of recognized him. I knew him as Childish Gambino as a musician. And he's like, "Yo, I'm doing this show." I was like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "Yeah, I think you'll be perfect for this role." I was like, "All right, cool." So then they sent me Darius, and I was like, "This dude is stupid. Like, why do I got to play him?" And it wasn't until really diving in and I realized that there were layers to the character, and I was like, actually, there's an opportunity here to do something interesting. And that was the first time I kind of learned that what you see face value in a character that's not where it ends. You can have a character that's unsavory, but they have layers to them. They're human. You can have a character that's apparently aloof, but actually quite genius and tapped into things that we're not maybe tapped into. You can have a character that seems rough on the exterior, but is really just, he's full of beautiful emotions, and that's okay too. And so Darius taught me that like characters can be much more than what meets the eye, and I'm glad that I decided to go with it, and I'm glad that that character is somebody that I played that. Really, I look back in my career and everything that I've done, and Darius, I'll always be proud of that character. So, yeah, thanks for asking about that. I hadn't thought about it in a minute.
Yeah, and that's kind of the benefit of TV, right? Is you get season after season to keep finding those new layers and play new notes. One of the fun things about watching that show with Darius was like you really never knew what you would learn about him from episode to episode.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And so much of that character was just things that I would just make up.
Right.
Like I just get on the set and just start doing things and just start looking at things, and everything I did, it just ended up making it. I remember one time I stuck my foot in a pot, and they just kept it. They were like, yeah, that's something Darius would do. For sure. And that amount of freedom you don't get all the time. Right. So it was a real fun character to play. I miss Darius, but I'm glad that he's cemented in the hearts and minds of so many forever.
I'm curious, because you had that level of freedom, and I assume you're still auditioning for movies and other roles and things like that, did it feel maybe like a little restricting when you would do a movie, and I would assume you didn't have that level of freedom? Did you feel that difference between Atlanta and other projects?
I think the thing that I found different about Atlanta was the group and the crew of people that I was around. We shot in Atlanta, which is very black. A lot of the crew was majority black. Mm-hmm. And looking around, seeing all those black faces was something that you don't see all the time. In fact, for me, oftentimes I was the only black face in the scene. So transitioning from that to that, it was a little bit different. But as things have changed and the tide have changed a bit, I've been seeing more and more, just multicultural aspects into filmmaking, which I'd love to see. There's so many things, and it's so rich now. Everyone has a different piece of life that they can bring to stories, which I think is just so amazing. And so that has been one of the major differences. But every role, every project calls for something different. Mm-hmm. So you prepare yourself differently. It's like, one thing you might, spend a month isolated in a jail cell, which I've done before. And some things you might, I don't know, you might hang out with a guy who's part of the NSA, as I did as I was preparing for Snowden, and you get information about that. So it just depends on what things call for, what the preparation process will look like.
Yeah, I think you did get out in the middle of Atlanta, so I would imagine that around that period, people are starting to recognize you on the street, stuff like that. Yeah. And especially because in Get Out, you're playing it's such a phenomenon. What do you remember about the way people would start interacting with you, things like that?
To this day, people will just run up to me and say, "Get out."
Yeah. You would be the one for that.
Yeah. Oftentimes, I'm still alarmed. I don't know whether to retreat. But a lot of positive love, has come in my direction, and primarily from characters like Darius. People will run up and call me Darius, and sometimes it can be annoying when I'm eating with my mom, which has happened in Atlanta. But most of the time, it's a very beautiful thing, and I understand that they connect to the spirit of Darius, which I also connect to, and I'm very appreciative of the fact that I could be someone that they watched on their couch and felt connected to, and in their moments when it was just them and me, and we were able to transfer some energy together, and it's a gift. That's what I did it for. I want to be able to help the stories reach the audiences, and if I can be a vehicle for that, some people calling me Darius is the price I got to pay. I don't mind it. Yeah. It definitely changed when I realized. I think Get Out changed things a little bit. It became now people just recognizing me in the street, and me being inadvertently kicked out of every place that I go into. Yeah. But also being invited into places, having to do nothing. People just like, "Hey, you want to sit here? Come in here, Mr. Get Out, man." I'm like, "All right."
You'll take it.
I'll take it.
It's also a matter of when you're taking these parts and you get a part like that, I wonder if you could maybe be a bit more selective. I've always thought of you as someone who's really intentional about the kinds of projects he takes on. But when you do come off of a project like Get Out, do you find the projects coming your way are different? What you can say yes to is different?
Yeah. I think, one of the hardest things, but perhaps one of the most important, are the things that you say no to. Some things look very delicious on the outset, but you got to kind of think about what you want to do and where you want to go. And there's these pivotal moments in your career where you can really be defined by a role. So you just kind of want to be selective and make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and remind yourself who you are. I grew up with roaches, so oftentimes I'll think about a roach, and that will remind me of where I came from and contextualize everything, you know? And so when you're making choices that come from a real place and not just what you're kind of thinking in your head. And, you know, sometimes you'll get it right, sometimes you won't. You know, it's like anything else, but you try to make the best decision that you can for where you're going. And I think as I grow, it informs the kind of roles that I want to do. And I hope that I can just impart some truth and do something meaningful while still entertaining people. You know what I mean? That's the ultimate dream. Yeah. Entertain, but still say something cute if you can.
Another through line to Lynn Ramsey is you work with Jordan Peele, obviously. And after that movie, you work with like all these incredible auteurs, like back to back to back, like Boots Riley, Rian Johnson in Knives Out, the Safdie brothers in Uncut Gems. Yeah. Speaking of scripts opening your mind, I can't imagine what reading those scripts back to back would have been like.
Oh, man. It's one of the best things about all of this experience is being able to read these cool stories and just get engulfed in them and be taken away with the brilliance of the writers, which they don't get enough love. Writers are the backbone of everything. They allow us to have a map. They create these brilliant, amazing characters for us to dive into. It really is a super important job. And it's not easy. I tried it. I know. Knives Out was an amazing read. That was quite the treat. Judas and the Black Messiah was another one that was just like amazing to be able to read. And so many things I've been able to get my hands on. And I was just like, wow, I'm just so lucky to be able to even read this stuff. And my whole thing is always like, I read something really cool. How can I help? You know? And it was the same thing with Die My Love. I wrote it. I read it, and I definitely didn't write it. I read it. And I was like, how can I be of service to this? And I would love to be. And so when I show up on set, it feels like truly an honor to be a part of some of these projects. And I think that feeling is what drives me and why I'm able to continue to go hard and give everything to it is because I just feel lucky. I feel grateful, you know?
Can you talk about first meeting Boots Riley ahead of Sorry to Bother You?
Yeah, Boots, I met him at Sundance Film Festival. It was this guy with the afro. He was like following me around. I was jumping around with the movie, and I just didn't know who this guy was. And I just kept seeing an afro in the crowd. And I was like, all right, let me talk to this dude. He seems cool. And he's like, yeah, I got the script, man. And he just like gives me a script in real time in the middle of Sundance, pages. People don't really do that. No. But I was like, this must be special. I really like these like interesting characters that move to the tune of their own drum. And so he handed me that script, and then I read it, and it was absolutely crazy. And I said, absolutely, I want to do this. Like, where do we start? Because it was crazy, but at the center of it, there was this profound message that I thought was great, a critique on capitalism in this, like, interesting way. And I wanted to be a part of that. And as I said, that's what I like. I like when things can entertain you, grab you, but then also say something real at the core. So it was, like, perfect. And I realized at the end I turned into a horse, and I was like, hell yeah. Like... That's just fun. Like, outside of everything else, I get to turn into a horse, dude. Like, what? Yeah, let's do it. And it was super fun. We made it from the ground up. It was really, like, indie to the core. Yeah. I think we made it under $1 million in, like, 20 days. There were guys in suits who were playing, like, these Equisapiens, and it was, like, an animatronic suit that was built by this guy just for this movie. And at one point, the internals of the, like, mechanics got hot, and then it caught on fire. Right. So the guy who's playing the dude in the suit is like shaking and he like falls on the ground, but at the perfect time in the scene where he was supposed to fall on the ground. So I'm thinking that it's really in the scene. I'm like, whoa, this dude's committed in the middle of the scene, and he's rolling around and around, and then all of a sudden it starts smoking. And then I'm like, oh, maybe this is not part of the, and I'm like, hey, cut, everybody cut. I say cut. Right. And then they say cut, and they pull the thing off him. He's like, and he's like choking. I'm like, oh shit. And he lives and he survives, and that's filmmaking.
That is exactly the story I want for Sorry to Bother You. I know you just made another movie with him. Without giving anything away, what was it like to get to work with him again?
Oh, my God. Okay, you guys think that one was crazy? Oh, man, this next movie is so amazing and so out of this world. And the imaginativeness of Boots Riley just always blows my mind. And I'm so glad to have filmmakers like him around who will push the boundaries and move outside of convention and do things that we've never seen before. For all of you guys who are young filmmakers, continue to do that and push the dial forward, because we need that. And that's what people want. And that's what people want to see and connect to. And keep it real. You know, we don't have to make this manufactured same ABC thing that we think people want to see. Let's push the boundaries, you know? And he does that, and he's doing that with this next project. I can't wait for you guys to see this. It's going to be crazy. Look out for Boots Riley's next project. It's going to be amazing. I'm in it with Keke Palmer, who's amazing.
Demi Moore's in it too, right?
Demi Moore's in it, yeah. And I had beautiful moments with her. She's such an amazing actress, and it was a dream. It really was.
Man, I can't wait.
Yeah.
You mentioned Judas and the Black Messiah, Oscar-nominated performance in that film. Let's give a clap for that. That's an intense movie and an intense true story. And I know it's one that really weighed on you while you were filming it. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. That was hard because I read Judas and the Black Messiah, and there are two characters at the center of it. Chairman Fred Hampton, who is based on the actual Chairman Fred Hampton, who was a leader in the Black Panther Party in the Chicago chapter. And then there is William O'Neill, who infiltrated the Black Panther Party. He was a CIA agent. And I thought that I would be playing Chairman Fred Hampton when I read it. And I was super excited. And I was like, yeah, man, thank you so much. I've been waiting all this time to play a role like this. He's like, you're playing Bill O'Neill. And it was hard for me because I really championed people like the Black Panther Party and what they were doing and pushing things forward and fighting for revolution and the truth and human rights and you know, the betterment of children in the futures and generations to come. So I really loved what they were doing. I wanted to be on that side of things. But then again, I had that moment where I thought, you know, it seems like this character's a villain on the outset. But first of all, I don't really believe in that. I don't believe that you can approach a character honestly when you view them as something bad. I think we all have chambers of good and bad and in between, and we're just a beautiful spectrum of mess, which inside of that there's good, there's bad, there's hunger, there's need, there's greed, there's desire, there's sex, there's fun, there's destruction, there's creation in all of us. And so this was another guy who was trying to find his way. His methodology I may not agree with, but perhaps the challenge with that is what I should survey. Why does it not feel good to me? Why does this character not feel good to me? And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought maybe in so many ways this character's just like me, and maybe that's why I need to do it. And maybe this character's just like everyone else, too, and they just don't know it. We all want to be Chairman Fred Hampton, but how many of us actually are? So I thought it might be good to give testament to him, not only so that he could highlight Chairman Fred Hampton and be a good foil to someone who I immensely respect, but also there's something beautifully tragic about someone who felt they had no other option than to sell out their brother and you know, try to win and survive. All he wanted was to find his own happiness. And maybe we can start to empathize with the things that we feel are in such opposition to us to find some gray area of truth. And maybe there's something valuable in there. And I was wondering this question as I was doing the role, if it was the right thing, if it was the wrong thing. It often plagued me. I remember one time I was in my trailer and I had this like existential crisis. I was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? This is wrong. And I like ran out of my trailer and my hands were numb and I was just like, I was breaking down. And then I took a deep breath and it kind of gathered myself, came back in, and I just said, stay the course, do the job, and it'll become revealed to you. And I did that all the way up until the last night where I had to poison Chairman Fred Hampton as William O'Neill. And the house looked exactly like the house I'd been studying. The layout was exactly the same. And Daniel so beautifully captured him that he seemed just like him. And I love Daniel, independent of everything. Yeah. So now LaKeith has to kill Daniel, and William has to kill Chairman Fred Hampton by poisoning him. And a big portion of that was actually cut out of the movie because I was so emotional. I think it just like really was causing internal struggle within me, and I think that translated to the character, but it almost made him a little too empathetic. So we had to pull it back in order to like, you know, design the story in a way that really made sense. And so it was really heavy, and there were many days where I just cried, just letting it all out, and walking away from it was hard to some extent, shaking it all off because you really feel like you did something really bad. And I remember the morning I got nominated, it was like 3 a.m. I got a call from one of my friends. He just kept calling. I said, man, what the hell do you want? He's like, you're nominated, bro. I said, shut up, dude. And I hung up the phone. And then he calls back and he's like, no, you're nominated. I'm like, what? And I look at the thing and I'm nominated, and then I'm crying. I'm like, that's I mean all of that work went into, you know, it was just a dream come true. And at the end of it all, I was able to see how playing a character like that actually was beneficial to the totality of the story, and was something that actually helped that story be seen by so many different people, and that person be seen by so many people who are like him, you know. And hopefully when you see that, you make a decision. Do you want to be the Chairman Fred Hampton of your world or the William O'Neill of your world? And I'll just leave you with that question.
It's a brilliant movie, and I think what you're saying, it's like kind of the whole point of the movie is this moral gray area that he kind of can't get out of until it's too late. It's making me think about the movie again. How did you leave that set, given how much it affected you? What do you remember about like the day after you wrapped?
Therapy.
That sounds healthy.
Sometimes qualified people can give you context for things that you're not really able to see. What's funny is my house, I lived next to the LA River, which was dilapidated at the time, which means it attracts all kinds of different critters. So I go to do this movie in which I play a rat. I play around with rats while I'm doing this movie. I met a rat for the first time. It's very cute. Playing around with it. And then I get back home and I just wanted to like wash all of this off. I go to my front door. I drop my luggage, and I see little pebbles of little black things on my floor, and I don't know what they are at first. Upon further inspection, I saw that it was shit. And I said, well, how is this happening? And then I started looking around, and my furniture has been eaten up. My house is infested with rats. You can't even make it up. I come back home, and now my whole house is infested with rats. I was like, this is some spiritual fucking crazy.
Wow.
And so then I hired some people to, you know, and then I had to get out of the whole house. I mean, it was like I couldn't live there anymore. I just felt like all my stuff was tarnished. And but that's one of those things where, you know, as I got rid of that house, I got rid of the whole thing. And I just let it go. And I started over fresh. I took a deep breath. I continued with therapy and just unwrapped myself from that mind state and got back to myself. But it's not always easy. So some of the ways in which you get into characters, I think the methodology should be paid attention to. And I think that artists should be careful and make sure you take care of your heart and your mind, you know, while you're diving into these characters. You want to do a great job, but, you know, take care of yourself.
Well, I could ask you about everything you have coming up. We are approaching time, so I'll ask you about one last project, which is, I think it's like a King Lear-esque adaptation that you filmed. With Al Pacino, Jessica Chastain, many other incredible actors. What was that like?
That was so fun. It takes place in like 400 BC or something like that.
Wow.
We're doing like some mixture between iambic pentameter and like current speak, I guess you call it. And we kind of threw it all in a blender, and I get to just like be the way I'd like to be, and it's really fun. And there's swords and like, you know, horses and again horses, and it's just this like beautiful story that was beautifully written. I got to work with Al Pacino. It was crazy. Who is someone who I have a lot of respect for, and I've developed a cool relationship with, and it's been amazing. Jessica Chastain, who's amazing. I've always wanted to work with her, and again, I was just surrounded by these titans, and I just love actors who know what they're doing, and it feels like you just learn so much in the scene with them, you know, and that was really beautiful. And we shot in L.A., which you never do.
That's great.
That was an amazing experience. I really wish I could talk more about it, but I can't wait for you guys to see that too. We tried something new, and the same thing with this film. You know, you try something new, you just hope it works. We're doing all these magic tricks, and we hope it takes hold, but you never really know. So, but that's part of the fun of it. It's like, you know, we'll see what happens. But I know it was fun, and any opportunity I get to work with horses, I love because it's my favorite animal. So yeah, that was a great opportunity, and I love like period stuff because you know I get to act all crazy and like, you know, I'm God. You know.
Book of Clarence, another great one that we didn't get to talk about. Well, we've got a lot of stuff to be excited about. LaKeith Stanfield, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming out today.
Thank you.